He finally makes capture. Prisoner's revelation changes everything. Human agent thought he knew. Jason Marsh pressed his back to the cold alloy bulkhead, sweat trickling beneath his filtration mask. The utility passage, all tangled conduits and snaking pipes, seemed to press in on him, every shadow a threat. The tracker in his gloved hand pulsed with urgent blue light, guiding him deeper into Orion Hub's labyrinthine guts. His steps were silent, careful, the soles of his boots barely whispering against the grated deck. He raised his pulse blaster, its matte barrel trembling only slightly, a testament to nerves he'd long since learned to master. In his ear, Allie's voice crackled, tense and filtered by static. "West access is blocked. She's cornered," Jason murmured, voice low. "Copy. Sensors are glitchy. Stay alert," Allie replied. A sharp, spicy aroma lingered in the air, her trace, unmistakable and haunting. He advanced, following the scent, heart thrumming with adrenaline. Somewhere ahead, a flicker of movement teased the edge of his vision. "You can't hide forever," Jason called into the dark, the words more for himself than for her. "This ends tonight." A lilting musical chuckle echoed through the passage, both mocking and inviting. The hairs on the back of his neck prickled. "Agent Marsh, you've made a habit of chasing ghosts. Are you sure you're ready to meet one?" The voice danced, disembodied, until she materialized from the gloom. Silvara stepped into the half-light, athletic and poised, violet skin gleaming beneath battered, streamlined armor. Emerald hair spilled over her shoulder, vivid against the metallic backdrop. Her eyes, green and alien bright, caught and held him. Too intelligent, too knowing. Jason steadied himself, setting his jaw. The infamous Mirage. Years of vanished nanotech. This is your last run. A sly, almost affectionate smirk curved her lips. "Is that what you think I've been doing? Running?" "I've got the files," he said. "Helix Labs, Nova Gene, Europa Quarantine." He listed them like talismans, proof against her mystique. Her gaze sharpened, emerald eyes flashing. "And you never wondered why?" Jason's grip tightened on the blaster. "I'm not paid to wonder, just to bring you in." In a blur, Silvara sprang forward, faster than any human, but Jason was ready. He fired. The containment net blossomed, a web of crackling blue energy that snared her in mid-leap. She fought, muscles tensing beneath the restraints, but the stunner pulsed and she sagged, breath coming in short, angry bursts. He moved quickly, securing the cuffs to her wrists. Up close, the patterns on her skin shimmered, intricate and shifting, hypnotic if he let himself look too long. "You've improved since Callisto," Silvara rasped, defiant even in defeat. "But you're meddling in things you don't understand." Jason hauled her up, feeling the unexpected warmth of her body even through his gloves. "You can explain it in holding," he said, voice gruffer than he intended. She studied him, something calculating and dangerous in her eyes. "Has it occurred to you you're the only human who's ever gotten this close?" Before he could form a retort, a wave of dizziness swept over him, a subtle vertigo that threatened his composure. He squeezed her arm tighter, fighting the sensation. "What did you do?" he demanded, vision swimming for a heartbeat. Silvara smiled, lips parting to reveal sharp canines. "It's not what I did, Jason Marsh. It's what you are." He shivered, not sure if it was from fear or something stranger. The prisoner's shuttle hummed steadily as it cut through the black. Jason sat across from Silvara, separated by a thin, shimmering barrier of energy. He tried to ignore her, to focus on protocol, but every so often his gaze drifted to her, her posture, so relaxed it was almost arrogant, the way the green of her hair caught the shuttle's running lights. Silvara sat with her eyes closed, hands resting loosely in her lap. "You've been staring for 18 minutes. Are humans always this transparent? She asked, voice like silk over steel. Jason bristled, glancing away. Just doing my job, he replied, a little too quick. Her emerald eyes opened, studying him with an intensity that made his skin prickle. Your pulse spikes when you look at me, even with blockers. He ignored her, fixing his attention on the readouts. Tell me about the catalyst from Altair. What was your plan? Silvara's lips quirked in a half-smile. You wouldn't believe me if I told you. Before he could press her further, the shuttle shuddered violently. Alarms blared, red lights spinning across the cabin. Warning, incoming debris field, initiating evasive protocol. The ship AI intoned, dispassionate and unhelpful. Jason's instincts kicked in. He unbuckled, eyes darting to Silvara as the deck pitched beneath his feet. She lifted her chin, sensing opportunity. That's not debris, it's a microdrone cloud. I can get us through. He hesitated, suspicion warring with survival. And you would? She met his gaze, unflinching. I've piloted this route more times than you've had birthdays. Another bone-jarring lurch. Jason made his choice. He thumbed the cuffs open, keeping the neural dampener locked at her neck. She flexed her wrists, nodding once in gratitude or acknowledgement. In the cockpit, the pilot was slumped, unconscious. Silvara slid into the seat, her hands flying over unfamiliar controls as if born to them. Her green hair flashed as she bent forward, fingers dancing across the holographic interface, recalibrating thrusters and realigning shields with a confidence born of desperation. Jason watched, transfixed despite himself. Her movements were a blend of grace and urgency, each command shaving microseconds off their response time. Where'd you learn to fly like that? He asked, not able to mask his awe. Survival, she answered, voice tight with focus. No better teacher. The shuttle wove through the chaos, microdrones swirling past the viewport in lethal clouds. Jason's heart hammered, but Silvara never faltered. At last, the storm broke. They emerged into quiet space, the hull battered but intact. Silvara allowed herself a triumphant grin. Jason felt a rush of unexpected gratitude, mingled with something more confusing. He resecured her cuffs, their hands brushing in the narrow confines of the cockpit. A jolt, sharp, electric, passed between them. Silvara looked up at him, her voice softer, almost vulnerable. Something's changing between us. Are you ready to find out what? Jason hesitated, pulse racing, as the hum of the shuttle filled the silence between them. Jason Marsh stood in shadow behind polarized glass, watching the alien woman on the other side. Beside him, Dr. Lena Voss tapped the datapad in her hands, blue light flickering against her glasses. The observation chamber thrummed with the hush of recycled air, the glass barrier both literal and symbolic. Silvara sat alone at the table, still as a predator, her violet skin luminous beneath the interrogation lights. Voss leaned close, voice low but urgent. Her readings are unlike any Varelian I've seen. Neural activity, metabolic rates, they're off all known charts. Jason's eyes never left Silvara. She's not just any Varelian, years of high-profile heists, but zero black market activity. No extremist ties, no profit trails, no one's ever caught her. Until now. Voss arched a brow, intrigued. It's almost as if she wanted to be caught. Jason's jaw tightened. There was a gravity pulling him toward Silvara, and it was more than professional curiosity. He squared his shoulders and keyed the door open. Inside the sterile chamber, every surface gleamed with cold efficiency. Silvara looked up as he entered, her expression composed, eyes unreadable. She smirked. Feeling worse? Jason ignored the question, but even he felt the sweat along his brow, the odd flush in his blood. The sensation had grown since their encounter on the shuttle, an insistent warmth he couldn't dismiss. He slid into the chair across from her, careful to keep the table between them. "Let's talk about your thefts," he said, voice clipped. "No profit, no manifesto. Why risk so much for nothing?" Silvara leaned forward, her gaze locked on his. "Maybe I'm saving people who don't know they need saving." He scoffed, but the words lodged in his mind. "That's vague, even for you." She cocked her head, studying him with unsettling calm. "You're sweating again, Jason. Are you sure you're okay?" Her tone was almost gentle, but there was a thread of challenge beneath it. He forced himself not to rub his brow. The warmth between them, something almost magnetic, made focusing difficult. He set his jaw, preparing another line of questioning, but before he could speak, the door hissed open. Director Miles swept in, his stride brisk, his gray suit impeccable. A pair of oversight officers trailed in his wake, faces set and unreadable. Miles didn't waste time. "Agent Marsh, stand down. Oversight is taking over. The prisoner will be transferred to Facility Echo immediately. Advanced extraction is authorized." Jason's stomach twisted. He knew Facility Echo by reputation. Advanced extraction was code for procedures that left subjects broken, if they survived at all. He stepped forward, protest in his voice. "We haven't finished questioning her. There's more here." "Orders from above," Miles cut him off, tone final. "Clear the chamber. Transfer team, prep the prisoner." Jason glared at the director, but the order was unyielding. As Miles turned away, Jason caught a glimpse of the transfer documents on his tablet, procedures that read like a death sentence. As the oversight officers moved to secure Silvara, Jason locked eyes with her. He saw a flicker of something. Fear, maybe, or defiance, before her mask slid back into place. He forced himself to walk away, but as soon as he reached the corridor, he doubled back, slipping through a maintenance access. He re-entered the holding wing, timing his steps between the patrols, and found Silvara still alone, cuffs gleaming in the sterile light. He didn't waste time. "One last chance. What's really going on?" His voice was low, urgent. Silvara held his gaze, her expression intense, voice barely above a whisper. "Your bosses aren't telling you everything. Look into Outpost Theta, Project Seraph. Everything starts there." A chill swept through Jason, settling deep in his bones. Silvara's eyes locked on his, refusing to let go. "There's a reason you're the only human who's ever caught me," she said. "And why you're feeling worse since you did." Jason felt the ground shift beneath his feet. Before he could respond, a sharp alert sounded from the corridor. The transfer team was ahead of schedule. "They're going to kill you," Jason said, his voice barely audible. Silvara shook her head, a sad smile curling her lips. "No, Jason. They'll kill us both." The UGC data archives pulsed with silent digital life, rows of crystalline drives, locked behind biometric barriers. Jason's hands shook as he bypassed security, the fever in his veins building, sweat pooling along his spine. He'd rerouted the surveillance feeds, but the timer in his head ran fast. Every minute, another risk. He dropped into a terminal alcove, overriding protocols with trembling fingers. He searched for Project Seraph, his access codes buckling under layer after layer of encryption. He forced them, his mind racing, and files spilled open in a flood. Redacted reports, genetic diagrams, after-action memos from Outpost Theta. He read, horror rising. A bioweapon, coded for targeted extinction, developed under the pretense of planetary quarantine. Test logs from the Virelian outbreak. Only one survivor listed, Silvara, chief scientist. He scanned further, references to adaptive DNA, experimental cures, failed suppressants, notes on cross-species compatibility. His own name appeared, flagged in the latest reports, tagged as viable candidate. Blood roared in his ears. He slammed the terminal shut and sprinted for the detention wing, every step burning. He found Silvara in her cell, flanked by silent guards. She looked up as he appeared, her face softer now, almost relieved. "You found it?" she said quietly. Jason drew a shaky breath, his mind spinning. "A bioweapon. Designed for targeted extinction. You survived the Virelian outbreak." Silvara nodded, her eyes steady. "I was chief scientist. I recognized the sequence early. Quarantined myself. When the UGC refused to act, I escaped. I've been tracking the weapon ever since." Jason pressed his palm to the barrier, unable to keep the anger from his voice. "You've been stealing components for a cure. That's what all those heists were. The weapon's still loose, Jason. I've tracked its carriers across half the system. Now it's affecting you." He stepped closer, desperation in his eyes. "How?" She matched his intensity. "Your DNA resists it. I discovered it when we fought. You're the key." The words hit him like a physical blow. "That's why they want you silenced. My DNA could stop it." Silvara nodded again, the intensity between them growing. "What you're feeling isn't the disease, it's the cure. I exposed you during our fight. Our chemistries are merging. It's a symbiosis." As the alarms blared, shrill, insistent, red light washed over the cell. The transfer team rounded the corner, weapons ready. Jason's resolve crystallized. He drew his stunner, voice hard with determination. 5 minutes. I'm getting you out." Silvara's eyes widened, something unguarded flickering in their depths. "You'll be hunted," she warned, her voice stripped of bravado. Jason grinned, the fever in his blood replaced by fierce clarity. "I'm already infected. I'm in." Silvara smiled then, the mask falling away for the briefest moment. It was a smile not of Mirage the thief, nor Silvara the scientist, but of someone who, despite everything, believed she'd found an ally. In that charged instant between the wail of klaxons and the trample of approaching boots, something fragile and vital passed between them, as real as the symbiosis in their veins. The service shaft was barely wider than Jason's shoulders, a maze of hissing pipes and shadow, but it was the only route the sensors didn't cover. Jason crouched low, knees pressed to grated metal, the hum of the UGC headquarters a muffled thunder above and below. Beside him, Silvara moved with feline grace, her armor catching flecks of light as she unfurled a battered portable console. The tension between them was palpable, a current as real as the one that had passed between their hands in the cell. They watched the security feeds flicker across the screen. Patrols swept the corridors in tight formations, red visors slicing the dark. Jason's pulse hammered as a guard's shadow fell across a vent only meters away, but the patrol moved on, oblivious. Silvara leaned close, her voice soft and measured, lips brushing the shell of his ear. "Do you have access to the launch bay?" Jason shook his head, mouth tightening. "Not anymore, but Miles does." He reached into his jacket, withdrawing a compact device the size of a matchbook. He clicked it on, cycling through frequencies until his own voice dropped into a perfect imitation of the director's clipped tones. Silvara's eyes widened, admiration flashing in emerald depths. Always prepared. Jason tried for a smile, but it came out tired. "Not for this." He pocketed the modulator and leaned in as she worked. Without a word, Silvara pressed 2 fingers to a seam in her chest plate, and a hidden compartment slid open. From within, she withdrew a slender glass vial, its contents swirling with iridescent color. Jason arched a brow, unable to hide his skepticism. "Seriously?" She grinned, holding the vial between thumb and forefinger. "Scent masking agent, nanite base, will be invisible to human olfactory sensors." Her gaze lingered on him, a playful challenge in her tone. "But you're already sensitive to me. The effect will be intense." Jason swallowed, his throat suddenly dry. How intense! She met his gaze, her own unwavering. Heightened senses, distraction, desire. You'll feel everything, especially me. He forced a crooked smile. Will I be able to walk? Silvara leaned closer, so near he could see the shifting patterns in her violet skin. If you're strong enough, are you? Before Jason could retort, a distant alarm chimed, short, urgent. The patrols were shifting. Time was running out. Jason checked his blaster, nodded. Let's go. Silvara cracked the vial, releasing a plume of scentless vapor. She dabbed it along her jaw, the hollow of her throat, the inside of her wrists. The effect was immediate. Jason's world sharpened and narrowed, every detail of her presence magnified. Her skin shimmered in the low light, the heat of her body radiating toward him. His breath caught as an electric pulse raced through his nerves, every sense straining toward her. They slipped from the shaft, moving as one. Guards passed within arm's reach, eyes sliding off them as if they were shadows. Silvara led, her stride purposeful. Jason followed, fighting the urge to reach out, to anchor himself with a touch. Each step felt like a gamble, his mind split between mission and sensation. At the corridor's end, the launch bay doors loomed, imposing, sealed by biometric and vocal security. Jason pressed his palm to the access pad, voice modulator humming against his throat. Director Miles. Authorization Echo 7, he intoned, copying the director's cadence perfectly. The scanner flickered, then went green. Access granted. Welcome, Director Miles. Silvara flashed him a quick, wicked smile as they slipped inside. Behind them, alarms escalated, the sound now an urgent citywide wail. They had minutes, at most, before the whole base locked down. The launch bay was a cathedral of steel and light, rows of cruisers gleaming under floodlamps. Security drones hovered above, but the masking agent held. Their sensors flickered past without pause. Jason's heart hammered as they ducked beneath a cruiser's wing, Silvara already popping the maintenance panel. She worked fast, hands moving in a blur. Jason slid into the co-pilot seat, fingers shaking as he keyed the launch codes. His mind was awash with sensation, her scent, her warmth, the memory of her hand on his. Focus. He forced himself to recall protocols, overrides, the sequence drilled into him over years of training. Silvara's hand reached across the console, covering his. Her skin was hot, electric. He felt the jolt all the way to his core. No turning back, she said softly, her eyes catching his in the half-light. Jason's voice was rough. Years chasing you. I need to know the truth. All of it. Her expression softened, vulnerability flickering beneath the bravado. And if you're right? Her fingers curled around his. He smiled, the first genuine one in hours. Then we're both in for a wild ride. A klaxon howled, red lights strobing across the bay as the docking clamps released. Silvara shoved the throttles forward, the cruiser surging toward the force field. Jason's breath caught as the world seemed to lurch, Luna's silver surface shrinking away behind them. For the briefest instant as the stars opened before them and the alarms faded into memory, Jason let himself feel it all. The danger, the uncertainty, and the wild, impossible connection forging between them. Whatever waited out there, it would have to face both of them, together. The rented room on Ceres Outpost was a forgotten pocket of shadows and old synthwood, its single window streaked with condensation from the mining dome outside. The hum of the city, ore haulers, thruster bikes, and the distant clang of cargo loaders, was muffled by thick walls. Jason Marsh sat on the edge of a battered bunk, hands clasped, breathing steady for the first time since Luna. For days, fever had gnawed at him, but now his symptoms had settled into something stranger. a quiet, pulsing awareness, as if the world had narrowed to include only himself and Silvara. Every newsfeed in the system blared their faces in a constant, inescapable loop. Fugitive agent and Varelian bioterrorist, the headlines called them, their images broadcast above immigration checkpoints in the corner of every dingy bar. Jason recognized the tension etched into his own eyes, the wariness in Silvara's. The door slid open, admitting Silvara. She moved with the careful exhaustion of someone hunted, green hair mussed and eyes shadowed by sleepless hours. She locked the door behind her and sagged against the wall, setting a battered scanner on the table. "Your agency's relentless," she said, her voice low and tired. Jason managed a wry smile. "Not my agency anymore." She glanced at him, a flicker of gratitude passing over her features before business returned to her face. "Any luck?" he asked. Silvara shook her head, though not without hope. "Some. Your DNA is unique, the adaptation's holding, stabilizing. But this equipment's a joke. I need a proper lab if I'm going to finish the sequencing." Jason watched as she powered up the scanner, blue light reflecting across the room. She approached, kneeling beside him on the bunk, the device in hand. Her nearness was electric. Jason's pulse quickened, the bond between them thrumming more powerfully than ever. Silvara lifted his wrist, pressing the scanner against his skin. Their eyes met, and for a moment the rest of the world fell away. "The adaptation's accelerating," she murmured, voice almost reverent. "You're becoming attuned to me, on a molecular level." Jason swallowed, words caught in his throat. "Is it happening to you?" She hesitated, something vulnerable flickering beneath her usual composure. "For Varelians, this only happens during pairing." The word lingered in the space between them, heavy with implication. He stared at her, heart pounding in his chest. There were questions, 100 uncertainties, but in that moment, none seemed to matter. Silvara looked away, retreating into the comfort of facts and plans. "I've got a lead," she said briskly, setting the scanner aside. "A scientist named Dr. Kestrel, bioinformatics, ex-UGC. She's on Titan. If anyone can help us, it's her. But getting to Titan won't be easy. Security between the moons is locked down, and the warrant for our arrest just went system-wide." Jason nodded, his mind already racing through possibilities. "What's the route?" "Old mining shuttle to Enceladus, then slip onto a supply barge for Titan. It's risky, but it's the only way. Unless you want to try for a diplomatic channel." He snorted, shaking his head. "Diplomacy's a little out of my reach these days." She almost smiled. "Welcome to my world." They started gathering their things, travel packs, the battered scanner, a battered pistol Jason had picked up in the market. Jason moved to the window, peering through the grime at the busy concourse beyond. His reflection hovered in the glass, Silvara's silhouette close behind. As he turned, his hand brushed hers. The contact sent a jolt through them both, a flash of memory and feeling layered with something deeper. Chemical, cellular, impossible to deny. He held her gaze, voice low and steady. "I'm not fighting this anymore. Not what's happening to me. Not what's happening between us." Silvara's mask of strength softened, a rare tenderness showing in her eyes. Then we both leaped together. She stepped closer, her hand tightening in his. The kiss was inevitable, a slow, searching connection that sent a surge of heat through Jason's body. He felt her fingers splay against his neck, her breath warm on his lips, the strange bond between them flaring bright as starlight. For a heartbeat, Ceres, the UGC, and the threat of extinction faded away, leaving only the two of them, vulnerable, entangled, alive. But the moment shattered as alarms erupted in the corridor outside, harsh and insistent. Red light pulsed at the edges of the window. Shouts echoed down the hallway. Boots pounding, weapons drawn. The agents had found them. Jason broke the kiss, mind sharpening with the old, familiar clarity of danger. He grabbed the pack, tossing Silvara her scanner. "We're leaving. Now." Without another word, they moved. Side by side, partners by fate and choice, ready to face whatever waited beyond the battered door. Dr. Kestrel's submerged laboratory was a cathedral of glass and steel, nested beneath Titan's frozen methane sea. The hum of filtration pumps echoed through the chamber, every surface reflecting the cold shimmer of the hollow displays. Jason sat at the center of it all, shirt sleeve rolled up, arm extended beneath the scanner's arc. He watched as Kestrel, hawk-eyed, hand steady, zoomed in on the swirling structure of his DNA, projected three-dimensional and luminous between them. Kestrel frowned, toggling through layers of code. "This mutation shouldn't be stable. The recombination is off the models. Yet here you are." Her voice was both skeptical and grudgingly impressed. Silvara leaned forward, hope alive in her face for the first time in days. "With Jason's antibodies, I've got a prototype cure, but it'll take hours for the nanites to synthesize it fully." She pressed a crystal vial into the sequencing slot, the glass glowing as data streamed across the hollow. Jason caught her eye, concern etched in his features. He could see the exhaustion in the set of her shoulders, the tension she'd worn since Ceres. "You need rest," he said, gently but firmly. Silvara hesitated, glancing at the machines as if she could will them to move faster. "The machines need time," she admitted, voice reluctant. "I suppose I can pause? Just for a little while." He touched her hand, and together they slipped from the lab, leaving Kestrel to her data and quietly humming consoles. The corridor beyond was lined with curved glass, offering a view into the black-blue ocean. Bioluminescent creatures drifted by like distant memories. In their quarters, Jason watched as Silvara stretched, the lines of tension easing from her body. She moved with a feline grace, muscles rippling beneath violet skin. The room was small, the single bed rumpled from sleepless nights, but the hush was a welcome change from alarms and gunfire. Silvara approached, her eyes soft in the half-light. Jason reached for her hand, fingers intertwining. "All those years chasing you," he said, voice husky. "I never really saw you. Not the way I do now." She smiled, the wariness melting from her eyes. "And I never let you. Not until now." He leaned in, and their lips met, slow, searching, an anchor against the chaos swirling outside these walls. The kiss deepened, hands tracing familiar lines, the bond between them humming with new urgency. Later, tangled together in the dim light, Silvara traced patterns across Jason's chest, her fingers cool and gentle. "You're the first human this close," she whispered, awe and fear mingling in her tone. Jason laughed softly, brushing hair from her face. "Hope it's not just the mutation." Silvara smiled, but the moment was fragile. Suddenly, a jolt of pain arced through Jason's body, hot, violent, shattering. He gasped, clutching his head as blood spattered from his nose onto the sheets. Silvara cried out, her own body seizing. Around them, medical monitors spiked, alarms wailing through the lab's comms. "The bond is destabilizing," Silvara choked, panic raw in her voice. "The prototype, it's failing." Jason tried to reach her, but darkness swelled, thick and suffocating. He blacked out, world narrowing to the fading sound of her voice. He woke in medbay, the world swaying in sterile blue. IV lines trailed from his arm, the scent of antiseptics thick in the air. Dr. Kestrel hovered at his side, her face pinched with worry as she adjusted the dosage on his drip. "Biochemical rejection," she said, her words clipped. "The bond failed when the prototype degraded. You're lucky to be alive." Jason's thoughts raced. Fear, confusion, the memory of Silvara's touch like a burn in his chest. He tried to sit up, but Kestrel pressed him back, her touch gentle but firm. The door hissed open and Silvara entered, her face drawn but relief bright in her eyes. She rushed to his side, brushing fingers along his cheek. "The new batch is almost ready," she breathed, hope threading her words. "Kestrel thinks she can stabilize it. We just need a little more time." Jason squeezed her hand, grounding himself in her presence. "We'll make it," he said, trying to sound sure. For her, if not for himself. Suddenly, the medbay lights flickered. Kestrel's comm crackled with a secure priority call. She crossed to the terminal and keyed in a code, her back rigid as the holoscreen snapped to life. Director Miles appeared, his image cold and remote, flanked by the sharp-boned face of Dr. Sato, Apex Biotech's chief of security. Sato's voice was icy. "All business. Secure both assets for transport. The project's future depends on them." Miles nodded, his silence more chilling than threats. Kestrel's face went pale as she glanced back at Jason and Silvara. Her hands hovered uncertainly over the comm. For a heartbeat, the room was silent except for the beeping monitors and the distant hum of pumps. Realization slammed into Jason. Betrayal was as sharp as any wound. He bolted upright, tearing away the IV. "We're out of time," he whispered. Silvara's eyes were wide, but she moved quickly, grabbing the portable drive loaded with the cure's data. Jason yanked open the medbay supply locker, tossing her a stun baton and pocketing a handful of nanite injectors. Kestrel's lips parted in apology, but she did nothing to stop them. They sprinted down the corridor, the station shuddering as blast doors sealed in the distance. Sirens wailed, red strobes painting the walls. Security teams would already be converging on the lab, guided by Apex's omnipresent surveillance. They ducked through maintenance access, boots splashing in shallow water as the tunnel sloped toward the emergency bay. Escape pods lined the wall, their hatches blinking green. Jason keyed in the override as Silvara kept watch, pulse blaster raised. She turned to him, breathless, her skin flushed with adrenaline. "Where now?" she asked, voice trembling between fear and exhilaration. Jason grinned, the old reckless light in his eyes. "Somewhere they won't expect." "Time to fight back." He squeezed her hand, and together they dove into the escape pod, sealing the hatch behind them as the lab's alarms faded into the void. The derelict station hung in Enceladus orbit like the skeleton of some ancient beast, its hull scorched and pitted by decades of neglect. Inside, shadows rippled along cracked bulkheads as Jason, Silvara, and Vic Ramirez huddled around a battered holotable. The ancient lights flickered above them, illuminating determined faces and the gleaming outline of their next impossible target, Apex Biotech headquarters on Mars. Silvara paced, arms folded tightly, her eyes sharp with worry. Breaking in is suicide. Apex has private armies, quantum locks, retinal scramblers. If we trip a single sensor, we'll be vaporized before we hit the labs. Vic grinned, flashing gold teeth. "Not with neural links. You two are already halfway there. I've boosted the interface. Your bond gives you an edge even Apex can't predict." Jason glanced at Silvara, feeling the electric pulse of their connection thrumming just beneath his skin. Since the failed prototype, their symbiosis had only grown. They finished each other's sentences, moved together in perfect sync. Now, with Vic's neural link amplifiers, they'd be able to think as one, act as one, a living codebreaker against Apex's firewalls. Silvara hesitated, glancing down at the neural cuffs Vic held out. "If this goes wrong?" "It won't," Jason said, his voice soft but certain. Not with you." She slid the cuff onto her wrist, and Jason did the same. Vic tapped the interface, and the world contracted. A flare of light, a surge of memory and sensation. Suddenly, Jason felt Silvara's presence like a second heartbeat, her thoughts brushing his, images and emotions blurring together. He steadied himself, feeling her strength and her fear. "You ready?" Vic asked, fingers dancing over the holotable. "You've got one shot. Get in, get the strain, upload the cure, and get out. I'll have your ride ready." Jason squeezed Silvara's hand, and they nodded as one. Mars at night was a city of red stone and gold towers, Apex's corporate stronghold, a fortress of obsidian glass rising above it all. Jason and Silvara, disguised in stolen uniforms, slipped through the outer security rings, their neural link guiding their every step. They moved like a single organism, anticipation and adrenaline weaving between them. Cameras swiveled, but Silvara's neural hack sent them looping to blank feeds. At a checkpoint, Jason flashed forged credentials, heart pounding, and Silvara pressed a thumbprint to the scanner, her alien biology masked by nanite overlays. Inside, the halls gleamed with white light and silent threat. Through the link, Jason felt Silvara's anxiety sharpening his senses. "Left, up the stairs. 2 guards," she projected silently. He nodded, and together they ducked into a maintenance alcove. One guard passed without noticing, the second paused, distracted by a phantom ping Silvara sent to his comms. They slipped past, hands entwined for grounding and guidance. At the final security door, the vault holding the original Seraph strain and the missing cure elements, Jason caught Silvara's gaze. Her eyes, usually so unflinching, shimmered with uncertainty. "If it goes bad, you run," she whispered. Jason's answer came not with words, but through the link, a surge of love, defiance, and the promise they'd forged in fire. "Not without you." The door hissed open. Inside, Dr. Sato waited, hands folded behind his back. The vault's lights cast him in cold relief, every edge of his white lab coat precise, every movement calculated. "You made it farther than I expected," Sato said, voice flat as glass. He raised a controller. Instantly, a force field surged around Jason and Silvara, locking their muscles, pinning them in place. Sato circled, his expression almost admiring. "Your bond is the future, not just a cure, evolution, symbiosis, adaptability, control. Apex will own it all." Jason fought the paralysis, panic crackling in the back of his mind. Through the neural link, he felt Silvara reaching for him, a whisper of thought, a plea. "Override now," she sent, her mind sharp and urgent. Jason focused, finding the buried code Vic had implanted in their neural cuffs. He triggered the override, and the paralysis field flickered, stuttered. Silvara seized the moment, driving an elbow into the nearest guard's throat and spinning to sweep his legs. Jason lunged as his body snapped free, slamming Sato against the console. Red alarms screamed through the vault. Security doors slammed down, but Silvara was already at the mainframe, uploading the cure algorithm. Jason held Sato back, one eye on the vault display as green lights blossomed across the map, each node a population center, each pulse the cure broadcasting out, rewriting the Seraph strain in real time. Silvara's voice rang in his mind and his ears, triumphant. "It's working! It's everywhere!" The vault door buckled as security reinforcements hammered at the other side. Sato struggled, teeth bared. "You think you've won? You'll be hunted." Jason cut him off with a punch, then seized Silvara's hand. Together, they bolted for the emergency hatch, corridors blurred by in a rush of boots and breath, alarms chasing them through the underbelly of Apex. In the loading bay, Vic waved them aboard a battered shuttle, engines already whining. "About time! Strap in! Mars Control just flagged every ship in orbit." As the shuttle tore away from the Apex towers, Jason looked back through the viewport. On the galactic map, green lights bloomed and multiplied, spreading from Mars to Luna, Europa, Titan, Ceres, outward, unstoppable. The cure was free. Vic grinned, teeth glinting. You're fugitives now. Every authority, every core, they'll all want a piece of you. Silvara slipped her hand into Jason's, her voice gentle but resolute. We'll keep moving. Together. Mars dwindled behind them, red and distant. Jason wrapped his arm around Silvara, pulling her close as the stars unspooled before them. Their bond, an accident, now a lifeline, remained, pulsing with memory, promise, and hope. As the shuttle vanished into the black, the two of them clung to each other, united by choice, by fate, and by a love that had changed not just them, but the course of history itself. That's the end of the story. Please do not forget to subscribe to our channel, like the video, and write in the comments what you liked most about this story. Our team will be very grateful to you. You can find even more fascinating stories on our channel. See you in the next video.